So it's another beautiful day on the battle for Azeroth Beta, and today we're taking a look at the Arms Warrior. Fun times ahead. So, the Arms Warrior has been reworked a lot throughout the Alpha and Beta. They've changed a lot of our talents and they've reworked our overall toolkit. So I'll be going over all the changes to our abilities and talents, as well as give you my thoughts on the current gameplay. So let's start out with our baseline stuff. Battlecry is gone, no more 100% crit windows. Good riddance! Instead we have Battle Shout. Our raid buff increases the attack power of all party or raid members by 10%, lasts for an hour. And Rallying Cry is back. On a 3-minute cooldown, increases all party or raid members within 40 yards maximum HP by 15% for 10 seconds. So with these two shouts, warriors will always be very valuable. If you don't have a protection warrior, Fury or Arms will be mandatory for Battle Shout. And even if you have a prot warrior, getting more rallying cries is just awesome for progress rating. And Overpower is back again with a little flair to it. On a 12-second cooldown, you overpower the enemy, dealing X amount of damage, which cannot be blocked, dodged, or parried. On top of this, it increases the damage of your next mortal strike by 20%, and it stacks up to 2 times. And I'm liking this one, to be honest. Arms just doesn't feel right without it. And the fact that it increases our mortal strike damage is a nice added bonus. Most of the time you just get the flat 20% increase, but if the RNG gods are with you, you might be able to squeeze in 2 overpowers before your next mortal strike. And this is due to the reworked Tactician. You have 1.40% chance per rage spent on damaging abilities to reset the remaining cooldown on Overpower. Used to be Colossus Smash, but it's now Overpower, and this works a lot better in my opinion. Instead of relying on your Tactician procs to give you Colossal Smash, you instead get some extra overpowers that isn't going to be all your damage. Instead, it's just an added bonus. And on that note, Colossus Smash isn't gone, but it has been reworked to be more of a cooldown instead of what it's been in Legion. It's on a 45-second cooldown now, and you smash the enemy's armor, dealing X amount of damage, and it increases all damage you deal to that target by 30% for 10 seconds. So yeah, you pop it, do more damage. Works great with some talents that I'll go over later, and it synergizes well with the overall playstyle that the Arms Warrior have in BFA. We've also got Sweeping Strike baseline again. 25-second cooldown, lasts for 12 seconds, and your single target damaging abilities hit 1 additional target within 8 yards for 75% of their damage. So kinda like it used to be before Legion. In Legion it was just a passive talent, but now it's an on-demand burst AoE cooldown, which is pretty dang nice. And our mastery is awesome now. No more Colossal Smash, it's now Deep Wounds. Striking an enemy with Mortal Strike, Cleave, Execute, or Blade Storm / Ravager inflicts deep wounds, dealing X amount of damage over 6 seconds. And our mastery, of course, increases this damage by a baseline 8%, so the more mastery you have, the harder your bleeds will tick. I love this compared to our old one. Sure, it's passive and it's pretty much up at all time, but it does an absolute shit ton of damage, and it's damn satisfying to watch that bleed tick on multiple targets after you popped Blade Storm. And a new passive, Seasoned Soldier. Our auto attack crits generate 30% more rage. Not much to say about that. Get crit, make rage. And I think that pretty much covers our base toolkit, at least the big stuff. Overall, I think these are solid changes. Arms plays a lot smoother and with a lot less RNG this time around. So let's take a look at what has happened with our talents. Starting off with the 15 row, we have War Machine, Sudden Death, and Skull Splitter. War Machine, your auto attacks generate 10% more rage, and killing an enemy instantly generates 10 rage, and it increases your movement speed by 30%. Not much to say, give us even more rage gen. Works very well for questing and solo content. Movement speed buff is pretty nice for those kind of things. And Sudden Death. Your attacks have a chance to make your next execute free and be usable on any target, regardless of their health. Deals damage as if you spent 40 rage on it, and personally I love this one. I remember when this was first introduced, was way back in the Wrath pre-patch. Execute is just a very iconic ability, so being able to weave him in every now and then just feels so rewarding, and not to mention it deals a ton of damage. And Skull Splitter. On a 21-second cooldown, you bash an enemy's skull, dealing X amount of damage, and you generate 20 rage. So again, more rage. Overall, pretty nice to play with. It can cover any gaps in your rage gen, and it does a fair bit of damage. Not sure which will be the go-to talent. I assume either Sudden Death or Skull Splitter. Skull Splitter might be used more at lower item level due to the rage gen, but just speculating here. Sudden Death is the most fun though, by miles. Execute spam! Moving on, 30s row, double time, impending victory, and Stormbolt. Double time, same as always, increases the maximum number of charges you have by 1 and reduces its cooldown by 3 seconds. Works great whenever you need more mobility, and extra charge is very useful in a lot of scenarios. Impending victory replaces Victory Rush. It's on a 30-second cooldown and costs 10 rage. Attack a target dealing X amount of damage, and it heals you for 20% of your max HP. Killing an enemy that yields experience or honor resets its cooldown. So basically it's Victory Rush with a cooldown. Victory Rush can only ever be used after getting a kill, and this one is usable every 30 seconds or after a kill. Rarely if ever have I used this talent, but it can be a lifesaver. 20% HP is still 20% HP. And Stormbolt, 30-sec cooldown, 20-yard range. Hurl your weapon at an enemy dealing X amount of damage, and you stun them for 4 seconds. A great single target stun with a fairly low cooldown, and it does a bit of damage, so that's always nice. This row will depend largely on what content you're running. Not sure how big the DPS gain is from Stormbolt on single target, but if it's anything noticeable, I'm guessing you'll run with that talent whenever you don't need the extra charge. 45 row, Massacre, Fervor of Battle, and Rend. Massacre, execute is now usable on targets below 35% health. Simple enough, instead of being usable below 20%, it's instead 35%. As previously mentioned, execute does a ton of damage, so being able to smash him out earlier is just awesome. Works great with sweeping strikes. And Fervor of Battle, Whirlwind deals 10% increased damage and also slams your primary target. Both a DPS increase on AoE and single target. AoE due to the fact that you'll be using Whirlwind anyways, and with this you also slam your main target. And single target, you just use Whirlwind instead of slam, seeing how it does both. So bye bye slam. And Rend. Rend is Rend. Cost 30 rage, wounds the target, causing X amount of damage instantly and an additional X amount over 12 seconds. Not much to say, a bleed that does a lot of damage. Keep it up at all times. Due to the fact that tuning isn't really done, it's hard to say here. All of these talents work, some better in certain situations than other. Personally, Massacre has a bigger appeal due to the fact that I can cram out more executes, and it works with sweeping strike, so win-win. And the 60s row, Second Wind, Bounding Stride, and Defensive Stance. Second Wind restores 6% health every 1 second when you haven't taken damage for 5. Again, very good for solo play and questing, getting all that health back in between packs and mobs. Bounding Stride reduces the cooldown on Heroic Leap by 15 seconds, and Heroic Leap also increases your movement speed by 70% for 3 seconds. And Defensive Stance on a 6-second cooldown reduces all damage taken by 20% and all damage dealt by 10%. So take less damage, deal less damage. Again, depends a bit on content. Second Wind I'd go for when I level or do World Quest, and Bounding Stride anytime I don't need an extra defensive. 75 row, Collateral Damage, Warbreaker, and Cleave. Collateral Damage. When your abilities damage a second target due to sweeping strikes, they refund 20% of their rage cost. Helps you manage your rage a bit while you're AoEing. Warbreaker. It replaces Colossus Smash. It's on a 45-second cooldown, and it's pretty much Colossus Smash but as an AoE instead, so our old artifact power. So it hits every enemy within 8 yards, deals X amount of damage, and it increases all damage you deal to them by 30% for 10 seconds. It's crazy on AoE. Popping Warbreaker into Bladestorm or Ravagers is just bonkers. And Cleave on a 9-second cooldown, costs 20 rage, strikes all enemies in front of you, dealing X amount of damage. If you hit 3 or more target, it also inflicts deep wounds on every target hit. So it's an additional way for us to spread deep wounds. Normally it's applied through either Mortal Strike, Execute or Blade Storm. So keeping it up on multiple targets is, I'd say, impossible without this. As to which one of these is the best, I'd say Warbreaker if you need on-demand burst AoE and Cleave for sustained AoE. And the 90s row, so we have in for the kill, Avatar, and Deadly Calm. In for the kill, Colossus Smash or Warbreaker increases your haste by 10% or 20% if the target is below 20%, lasts for 10 seconds. More haste means more rage, and it gives us a steady increase throughout the fights, and even more when we hit execute range, if you didn't go for massacre talent, that is. And Avatar, good old Avatar. On a 1.5 minute cooldown, you transform into a Colossus for 20 seconds, causing you to deal 20% increased damage, and it removes all roots and snares. On top of this, you also generate 20 rage when you pop it. Not much to say really, you do more damage. It is pretty nice that you get 20 rage when you use it. It works great yet again if you're going for bursty AoE to combine this with Warbreaker and Blade Storm. And Deadly Calm reduces rage cost of your abilities by 100% for 6 seconds, so pop it and spam away. If you're having rage issues, I guess this one could be nice. Not a huge fan of it, but yeah, for rage gain, sure. Usually cooldowns tend to come out on top due to cooldown stacking, so I'd assume Avatar wins here. But Infinite Kill might just be a tad better, but we'll see when the tuning is done. And the last row, we have Anger Management, Dreadnought, and Ravager. Anger Management, every 20 rage you spend reduces the remaining cooldown on Colossus Smash and Blade Storm. So yeah, no need to check the other talents in this row, more Colossus Smash and Blade Storm, I mean that's all you need. But let's keep on anyways. Dreadnought, Overpower has 2 charges, and it increases the damage of your next Mortal Strike by an additional 10%. Always a fan of charges, works a lot better for any and all rotations. Overall just increases our Mortal Strike damage, but it can also be used to get a burstier Mortal Strike out if there's ever priority targets that needs to die fast. And good old Ravager replaces Blade Storm. On a 60-second cooldown, you throw a whirling weapon at the target location, dealing X amount of damage to all enemies within 8 yards over 7 seconds. You also generate 7 rage each time it deals damage. Not much to say, Ravager is Ravager. It does crazy damage on AoE and you don't need to channel it, so you can spam out Sweeping Strike and powered Mortal Strikes during it instead of spinning around. The extra rage gain from it is a nice bonus during AoE as well. As for the best talent here, I'd assume Anger Management wins, mostly due to the fact that it lowers the cooldown on Colossus Smash, which is pretty damn significant for a single target, and getting more Blade Storms out on AoE or in dungeons is pretty damn insane. Long live burst AoE. So yeah, as I previously stated, I think most of these changes are solid, and I really like how ARMS play in BFA. Still doing crazy AoE and solid single target, but it's a lot less proc dependent and a lot less RNG based. I usually like procs and a bit of RNG, but I don't like it when it's all there is. In Legion, if you didn't get a Colossal Smash proc, you might as well roll up in a ball and cry for a bit, which I assume no one is a big fan of. And on top of this, our rage gain feels so damn good right now. There's not a lot of moments where we are completely rage starved, which makes our overall rotation a lot smoother on single target and in dungeons. You're just a hulking monster of AoE. Warbreaker into Blade Storm into Sweeping Strike, bye bye mobs, and hello aggro. And that's pretty much it for this look at the ARMS Warrior on the BFA Beta. If you have any questions at all, make sure to hit me up in the comments below. I try to answer any and all questions as well as I can. And as always, if you like this kind of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave me a like, and ring that notification bell and switch it to all. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.